I was just there because we were doing the Warfield, and that's the Ground Zero, Turk Street and all that in there. It's the ground zero of just ghetto. And here we're talking about a city where a studio costs $2,200 right now. You know what I mean? But they'll never, and I mean never, be able to charge good money for the Tenderloin. Because the roaches and the fucking stench and the death in there is never going to leave.
So they're not trying to gentrify it?
I'm sure they've tried, but they just... What are you going to do?
I used to go, Original Joe's was right there.
It just burned down.
That's the one that burnt down.
That was the great one. They reopened in North Beach, which is great. But that Original Joe's was fire.
Those waiters had the fucking outfits on, dog. It was straight up gangster. I had a guy, Mr. Chow. I always had a Chinese waiter in there. And I get the fucking Rusty Nails. I get Rusty Irishman, the fucking...
Do you know when you're going to San Jose next year already?
July.
Of course.
There's one right there.
Right there.
Right there next to the Fairmont.
He's been there. I've taken
I went
there
there one weekend 2 years ago, and I think you went there like 5 times. We went for breakfast once.
Yeah.
You looked up online what time they opened, and we planned the walk so we'd get there right as they opened the door, and there was already a line.
I'd eat there
at like
forever.
10:30 or 11
I get
a.m.
the Slim Joe burger. They got the Joe burger, then they had the Slim Joe or the Joe Jr., and it was on a baguette.
Oh,
fresh
and they
baguette.
cut it in half.
Oh, man.
And they put mayonnaise on their
Fuck
burger.
yeah, that shit's fucking
great. And I usually don't like mayonnaise on my fucking burgers.
They had that sidebar there that was like straight out of Bukowski or, Barfly. Had a bar there. You just sit in there all dark, watch the 49ers play, I used to have this group of friends I hung out with. When we turned 30, we had the Dirty 30. And we would meet at Original Joe's and drink on in that back room and eat.
In San Jose?
No, at the San Fran one.
Oh, down right
there
Tenderloin?
behind the
I seen a guy stabbed in front of there one time, bleeding, dead, begging for people to help him.
You walked right into Original
Right
Joe's.
into Original Joe's.
Yeah, man, you just step over him.
You
That's
just step over.
standard, routine down there.
I can't help you. That spaghetti's calling my name.
I had just moved from New York, and I was going in there to get my spaghetti fixed every fucking day for lunch.
It's so good.
I would wake up knowing that I had to go out and hustle 50 for lunch just to go to Original Joe's like a doctor. As long as I had a meatball, I'm good to fucking go. I don't need spaghetti with this and that. All you fucking morons that ruin your spaghetti. I need spaghetti and 2 fucking meatballs and a piece of bread and some butter. That's it.
Yeah,
With
you
some
know who's
crushed
got
red
a mean
pepper.
spaghetti? Jones. You eat there, Santa Monica and like La Brea. It's killer. Jones.
Jones?
That's the rock and roll. It's been there like for 25, 30 years, but the jukebox has the best metal. Like you're in there, they're playing Motorhead. They have a wall of Jack Daniels bottles, and then it's all rock and roll, and then they serve spaghetti in a skillet. Comes out fucking just cooking, and it's killer, man. The sauce is kind of spicy, 2 big meatballs, and you're listening to Motorhead.
See, meanwhile, you take a train down to eat fucking French food.
No, you got to eat at this place. I go there. I go there like once a week. Jones. It's on Santa Monica by that Target and that Best Buy right there. Yeah. Oh, Formosa Cafe is across the street from it, so it's right there.
The weed store. Then there used to be a weed
there,
store.
Yeah, there was a weed store.
There was the weed store right there.
Yeah.
You know me, I'm better than fucking weed maps.
Yeah.
What was I say to you? So you started in San Francisco. What was cracking up there then? What kind of music was on fire? I mean, that's Santana. That's a fucking beautiful area. But what was cracking for you? What made you pick up the guitar, or the microphone, or the drums? What was it?
Well, I mean, it's the bands that you're listening to, but then there's big club bands at the time. The club that was the ground zero for San Fran was called The Stone. It was on 412 Broadway. It was on Broadway. Across the street was the Mabue Gardens. That was the CBGBs of the West Coast. And those 2 clubs had all the rock and all the punk. And everyone played them. Everyone from fucking, Devo, Dead Kennedys, Jerry Garcia, Slayer, Kiss. Everybody, played those 2 rooms. And I would just hang there every fucking day. It was like my comedy store now, my workshop. And there was big club bands that nobody knew, but they were stars to me. Local bands that were selling it out, like Vicious Rumors or Roadrunner, or this band Le Mans, all these bands when I was growing up. And then Metallica came in, you know, and it became Metallica and Exodus and Laws Rocket and all this metal Testament. And really, it was like once Metallica started hitting, I was like, wow, this is fucking great.
What were you doing for a living then?
I did construction, which was the fucking worst. You know, you got to get up at like 6. And I was a laborer, you know, carrying fucking wood up. I did that for a while. Then I painted. I moved on to painting houses. And then I got into booking the Stone. I was like, I don't know, maybe 20. And I started booking the club. Because I knew all the bands, so I was helping them. Like, you got to get this band or that band. And they're like, well, why don't you book the weeknights? And that's really where I got my knowledge of business, you know, which helped now with comedy. I understand booking. I understand agencies. I understand commissions, deals, all that paperwork and everything, deposits. I learned it all as a kid. So it helped me as I played rock. I just managed the band myself because I already knew all the scams and deals and how it worked, you know. And also when a great band came, my band opened because I booked myself on it, you know what I mean? So it was a great learning experience.
We talk a lot about some people don't want to start from the bottom.
Yeah. It's
pretty cool that a lot of musicians might not, I don't want to work at the club and I'm a musician. It's pretty cool that you went and you learned and it helped you out. Like some people wouldn't do that job.
You know, I think the thing was, to me, it was like, it was a record store or that, if you could, or a guitar center, if you could be around rock and music, we're talking about, this isn't now where you go to Chipotle and fuckers got tattoos on their necks and hands. And, you know, back then, if you had even one tattoo, you'd have to hide it for a regular job. You couldn't have long hair. You'd have to put it up in a hat, you know. Now you can just you can look like a garbage can and work at Chipotle. I mean, you know, like I always say, I don't think I got enough tattoos to work at Chipotle, and I'm covered in them. So whenever you could get a job where you could say, this is how I look, and I'm going to be gone maybe a couple days a week instantly to do a gig, that's the kind of gig you're looking for, you know, because you gotta make some money. You're not making any money in your band when you're starting, you know, and that's not what it's about anyway. You know, that's why a lot of rockers back then painted or did construction, because it didn't matter what you looked like out there.
There's a company out here that's called Rock and Roll Movers.
Yeah.
And they're just in a band and they move.
That's it. I've seen them. Whatever you could do back then and get away with your look, you got to understand, hair down to your ass and tattoos, no one's hiring you. You know what I mean? What are you going to do, like work as a waiter? People would be like, who is that criminal? I mean, that was actually a criminal look. Sideburns. You know, I looked like Neil Young for big old mutton chops and straight hair like a Greg Allman, you know. You're not getting a regular job like that, but you got to work. But also, you didn't have to work that much because rent was like $1 in the city back then. No one wanted to live in the city. They wanted to live in Marin or Walnut Creek. The city was blue collar and dirty, you know. So all the artists lived in the city and rockers and painters. It was fucking fantastic. Now all the rich people want to live in the city, you know, because it's like, ooh, it's, you know, it's multicultural and
I get a cappuccino.
yeah, it's this is our city. And it's like, fuck, man, you wanted Marin, go back over there. It's crazy, man. I remember living in an amazing apartment for $275, and I had a garage in San Fran. That's like fucking $275, man.
I lived at the Virginian Hotel, which is now the hostel.
The hostel.
In Tenderloin, right there across from the Hilton.
Yeah. Oh, I know that.
And the Alexander Hotel, that's the first hotel I robbed. I mean, it's fucking crazy. I was a full-blown criminal in San Francisco. It was my first apprenticeship being out of Jersey. What was the first band you were in?
First band I was in, this is an amazing story. I told it somewhere else, but I was in a band with 4 buddies. I was in high school still. They were 2 years out. Started this band, and we named it Warrant because me and the other guy always had warrants. Like, you know, run a stop sign, you get a ticket, you just fuck that thing.
You got a warrant.
You got a warrant. You know, fucking speeding, see you later. I'm not paying that shit. I ain't got no money. And then, you know, there'd be that tail light out you didn't know about, and boop, boop, you get pulled over. And
there you go.
Going
Bye-bye.
in, fucking warrant. Sitting down there at 850 Bryant, San Francisco, going, fuck. So we get the band together, and my mom's like, you guys should be called Warrant. You know, my mom, she was like, you guys all have warrants always. It's a great name. We're like, that is a great name. My mom was smart enough to copyright the name in Sacramento. You could copyright it for like $100. You own the name. And a few years later, that band Warrant got big, and they came a knocking. You know, they were like, hey, their lawyers called and said, we tracked you down. This is pre-internet or fucking cell phones. And they're like, we want to buy the name. We'll give you $750 or whatever. And we're like, no, because we were getting big. We didn't want to give up our name. That's like starting over. You know, you can't be like, you know, the Ding Dongs, formerly Warrant. It's just starting over. It just looks hokey. And we were on a fucking roll. Then they called about a month later. We'll give you $2,000. And it was me and my buddy were partners. We're like, nah. It's not worth it, $2,000. We're broke, right? And then we don't hear from them like 6 months. And they're like, they call and they go, we'll give you $10,000. Last offer, we said no. And then they go, all right, 20 immediately. We go, okay. And we sold them the name. It was funny, about 7 years ago, I was in Vegas seeing Metallica New Year's Eve, and I didn't want to get a room, so I just stayed up all night and then caught the first flight out. And I'm sitting there on this couch, and here comes this guy. So I look at him, like, I know this guy. He sits right by me. I can't believe it. It's Janie Lane, the singer of Warrant. He recently passed away a few years back.
At a hotel right up here, right?
Yeah,
Canoga Park.
exactly. He sits by me, and we've never met. I mean, this is fucking creepy, right? There it is, like, out of nowhere, guy sitting next to me. I said, hey, man, I sold that band name to you. And he goes, oh, fuck, man. I always hated that fucking name. I can't believe I'm meeting you, man. And I go, I know, right here. And he goes, yeah, I wanted to call it Lane, like Lane Street or something, because he came into the band later. But they were big under Warrant, and the label wouldn't do it. He goes, I hated it. And then we paid you guys. Came out of our pockets. I was like, hey, man, sorry, brother. And he's all good. Let's go watch a game. He was into like a college team he wanted me to go see when we landed. I was like, see you, man. It was weird. And then he was dead like a year later.
We're going in like fucking Marines. You understand me?
Welcome to church, motherfucker.